I think it was, one of the decks or the primary deck he used to hit rank 1 legend, stay rank 1 legend. And Demon Hunter, in my opinion, got stronger in the metagame because of, some of the decks that we've seen rise in popularity and some of the decks that we've seen fall in popularity. I feel like was a favorable outcome for Demon Hunter, all things considered. So just interesting choice that, he went with getting rid of Demon Hunter instead of getting rid of Malygos out of this lineup, because I do feel like he could just substitute one for the other in this lineup and it would still work very well. But that was a rant all about one deck choice, but we'll see if it comes into fruition here, because we're going to get to see Malygos Druid in Game 1 versus Empanizado's Tempo Mage.
That's right. So the game number 1 here, let's see how much that Guardian Animals impact hurts, as you talked about. Is it truly more devastating? Or is it just actually okay anyways? I mean, it's a really big deal, right? Like, the overgrowth curving into the Guardian Animals. It just looks weird a lot of times. I actually haven't played too much of it because it just got nerfed, so I was like, well, if I want to climb, I'm not really going to play the deck that got worse. And I didn't really see many people playing it at all. But yeah, and in our practice, the druid didn't really seem like it doesn't really seem like the Guardian Animals really defined it all a lot of the times. However, I am ready to see if maybe Empanizado can find a way to punish it for being a little bit too slow.
Yeah. And the decks all still work. Survival Druid still works. Malygos Druid still works. It didn't change the core functionality of the deck like Turtle and Pilgrim did with Turtle Mage. It's just, it feels like everything happens just a little too slow now, and it feels like, especially in the case of Malygos Druid, you're playing 2 Guardian Animals. With the change state mana, playing it a turn later on average, playing each one a turn later on average, that's a whole nother turn to draw one of the very limited amount of beasts that you have in your deck. I feel like the second Guardian Animals is almost always dead. And now, one is already dead, and he can't even play Guardian Animals next turn. That's unless he picks up Innervate, so it's 2 more draws that a potential beast can be drawn. Now, this is like, worst case scenario for Rami, but perfect time to utilize this and be completely result-oriented thinking to drive home my point, which is what a good analyst would do in this situation, Daniel.
I agree. I'm really thinking about what he wants to die, and I feel like you don't want Twilight Runner to die, given that swipe can really ruin your day.
Yeah. See, Dan, look at this. Because of the nerf to Guardian Animals, Empanizado is playing Tempo Mage, and he got his Twilight Runner down faster than Rami.
That's right.
Just brutal.
It's totally brutal. And yet, Rami chose to put his faith in that deck. He is 2-3. A loss here on either side for Division B is pretty devastating. There are some players that get automatic relegated, and with every player having 2 wins, no one is guaranteed to be in that spot. There's a possibility that people who are at the bottom of Division B could be at the top going to playoffs, and people who are in the middle could be the ones getting relegated. And Pizzotto finds the devolving missiles.
Nice. Yeah, and one of the other things about Division B is that all those players that are sitting down there at 2 wins that are all tied right now, they all play against each other in these final 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Which is kind of the crazy part.
Yeah, Pizzotto thinking about how he wants to capitalize on the rest of these mana that he has. A player that also is not unfamiliar with potentially fighting for his relegation spot, as he was one of the newcomers to Grandmasters not too long ago, but despite making Division A after winning a Swiss tournament, did seem to struggle a little bit during the round robin stage. Rami picks up the Overgrowth number 2. That's not going to do enough. Looks like he's going to commit to the Moonfire first. Get acknowledgement that it is indeed Chrono Breaker, which makes sense. Okay, we're back in business here. Rami finds a Twilight Runner. All's well that ends well, I suppose.
Yep.
And it makes sense, right? A card getting nerfed by 1 minute just means it's a little bit slower, which means you take a little bit more damage and punishment for not being able to play it immediately. So, all things considered, you see the nerf in effect. Is it completely backbreaking, making the deck unplayable? No. But it hurts a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
The risk and reward is a lot higher.
So this is a kind of a tough situation for Empanizado because okay, Frostbolt picked up. I was gonna say he kind of wants to block the ability for Rami to draw here, but he didn't have a great way to do it outside of Ray of Frost, and if you Ray of Frost, then didn't have like very many options for development. This is gonna Ray of Frost now here to stop these minions. Are okay. I'm curious if the wow.
Okay.
Geppetto picked up. There are only 2 minions left in the deck, I believe. Oh, excuse me, he does play Speaker Gidra and Animated Broomstick, so actually 4 minions left in the deck. 5 minions left in the deck. So that's not nearly a guarantee, because there's Malygos, Alexstrasza, Forest Warden Omu, Speaker Gidra, and then a Broomstick. Yeah.
Reliable counting from the top analyst of Hearthstone.
Yep. Sometimes, you know, you just need to double check and count, learn how to count to 5. And going back to basics is a premier quality in a top analyst.
Yeah, I'm taking a lot of notes right now. Empanizado finds a Frostbolt. Looks like he's just looking for damage. Finds Puzzle Box of Yogg-Saron. I kind of was anticipating a Solarian Prime Jam, and Empanizado ended up going for the Raz Frost Whisper. Tell me, TJ, from an analyst perspective, a top analyst perspective, why are we playing this Raz over, or maybe are we saving the Solarian Prime for something more important?
Yeah, with Ysera Unleashed played, you're very likely to run into much bigger board states than just Ysera Unleashed. Ysera Unleashed by itself is not that potent. The upside to the Solarian Prime, though, is that like sometimes you force your opponent to play a little bit awkwardly, right? You have 1 minion on the other side of the board, so if you are playing like burn spells, they're very likely to go, or not very likely, but just as likely to go face as they are to hit minions. And you could start, you know, piecing together ways to close out the game. He's got 2 Frostbolts in hand. So
yeah, I guess the way I kind of viewed it was that, well, one, Rami is really pressing in here, and I like it. It gives him an opportunity to maybe even have lethal out next turn. But the way I see it is that Solarian Prime won't do a lot to the board unless it casts multiple AoEs, and that's not super reliable. You can usually count to cast maybe 1 AoE for him. But if it's like 8/8s and 4/12s and 7/7s, I don't know if Solarian Prime will answer that. Like, you can play it right here. There's a chance that he just dies. Okay, well, that's a good way to start. Okay, did a good thing, it did nothing, did a really good thing. And Ice Barrier, nice. Okay,
it's a reasonable
solid.
Thing. Yeah, the biggest thing that does is make it so that Rami has to check into these secrets. Also, Empanizado has a lethal setup here. Woo.
I mean, has to test a little bit first for the secrets. We'll see if Empanizado does get that lethal setup, but it does seem like Rami should be okay. Part of me wonders if Rami should even just copy this Deathwing with the Germination.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, he could do all this. He could Crystal Power Swipe and Germination.
Germination makes
now
sense, particularly because Empanizado showed an inability to deal with big minions, and will continue to do so based off what we see. I like it.
All right, this might be an I'm all in on puzzle box kind of game. In fact, it may have already reached that point.
Right, so we frostbolt the dragons, and we pray that puzzle box can bail us out. Is that what happens here?
Yeah, he can even like Arcane Intellect, double Frostbolt, Mana Cyclone. Oh, Ray of Frost. Oh,
that's right. Which gives him the ability to even play the Mana Cyclone this turn. So he can double Ray of Frost, Wand Maker. I don't know if you actually want to play Wand Maker here. Maybe you just want to Frostbolt so you can go for the full spells. Okay, Cram Session also is okay. Sure, this works.
Ooh. Well, Deep Freeze Frostbolt allows him to do that again next turn if no portals come out, but portals are coming out. 8-8.
Multiple portals, TJ.
Oh, Guardian Animals is completely dead.
Not completely dead. Oh wait, if you stick a Speaker Gidra, TJ, gives Gidra
Sure.
+8/+8.
Yeah.
Is it truly a nerf if that happens?
Yeah. And one thing to note is the ability to kill with Malygos is limited now. There's no, there's only one swipe left. There's no Moonfires. There's no Germination.
Job's done.
Though Rami likely won't need that because at the moment it is going to come down to whether or not it feels like it's going to come down to whether or not Puzzle Box can completely bail Empanizado out of this situation.
That's right.
Is there any other way for him to like guarantee survive one more turn? I don't think that there is. Nope,
Here
it's
we
puzzle box
go.
time. This has to be big. This is a tall task.
Whoa.
2 8/8s. Storm's Wrath. All right. Mishfin.
Taunt.
Wait, what?
Okay.
Another Dimensional Ripper. He needs a
Keep
freeze, or he's incredibly dead. Incredibly dead. Incredibly dead.
Yeah. Good valiant effort. That was a big board.
Runs out on me. You win.
But not going to be enough. Rami lets out a sigh of relief. That's going to do it for game number 1. Rami takes it. Malygos Druid, despite getting nerfed with the Guardian Animals going from 7 mana to 8 mana, still able to get over the hump against the mage. So, Rami, well done. Just to recognize that deck still has opportunity, still has some game. May have lost a step or two, but still really gets up there with some old man tricks.
That was nearly Survival Druid. Malygos didn't even come into play for most of that game. So, I think that's more just a case of a nice matchup, which could be good for Malygos Druid being a nice bring, or Druid in general, I guess, being a nice bring. Because a lot of times they can do things that can sometimes be a little too fast for Mage to be able to catch up on outside of some crazy outcomes. But yeah, Druid win for Rami. That's a big deal, especially considering we talked about the implications of these matches here for Division B. Empanizado, Rami, Nalgidon, Firebat, all the players towards the bottom of Division B, they all kind of play against each other throughout the weekend, which means that these wins are twofold. They give a loss to opponents you're fighting against for relegation, and they also bump you up a little bit and help your tiebreakers when it comes down to it. So, Rami going to switch to Priest.
You asked for it.
The light
Yeah, I like it, TJ. I know that you said that it was like a survival druid, but still, like, I think it's just demonstrating that there's no need to overreact. The deck still can win. It's still entirely plausible for druid to get there, and maybe a sign that the nerf was actually really good.
I wasn't saying it was bad. I was saying that, in my opinion, Demon Hunter was the deck that I would get rid of from my lineup much less often than Malygos Druid. If given the choice, considering those are the two comfort decks from Rami. So maybe it comes down to those.
Fair enough.
I do still think that, you know, I played a lot of Survival Druid the past couple of days. Killing all day Survival Druid drew a ban in the last series. I still think Druid is powerful. I don't think the nerf was that impactful, but when given the choice between Demon Hunter and Malygos Druid, I'm picking Demon Hunter almost every time.
Hard to argue with that since Demon Hunter's had really good performances across the board. But going into this game here, turn number 2, we had the Draconic Studies. We just have anything really to do here for the first 2 turns. We have seen some people invest Renew preemptively to try and look for spells, to try and find an opportunity to use it in the early games. So like say he uses Renew here to find a removal tool for Chinvala or Astromancer Solarian. A Raised Dead. Doesn't want to fall too far behind on the tempo and ends up using it for just a Cleric of Scales. TJ can just go infinite with Cleric of Scales and Raised Dead.
Yeah, infinite
really
until he runs out of
course.
Raised Deads, which would have been right then.
Well, yeah, he would have found Raised Dead, but he would have gotten all the spells. Because he had Renew, this is why I was thinking more Raised.
I was going to say infinite for one more time.
Yes.
But it's
Well,
not getting
really
on the board too fast, but just acquiring resources, which, you know, Tempo Mage doesn't really get on the board that fast, which you should believe that the deck shouldn't be called Tempo Mage, but, you know, that's an argument for a different time. But acquiring resources and, you know, applying consistent pressure over the course of the mid-game is mostly how Mage wins this, and some X factors being randomly generated burn damage and Solarian Primes later on.
Bigger question is, how does Rami deal with the card like Chinvala? He can't really right now, and doesn't really seem like he's going to be able to, so he's going to have to instead let it be on the board. Evasive Worm is too expensive, costs 4 mana now after the double discount from the Draconic Study. So Cobalt Spellkin hits. And now it's up to Empanizado to prove that he can actually back up Chinvala. Was he just fronting?
You can. It's just how best to do it.
Okay, I like.
All right, start with a magic
to start
trick.
things off. Yeah.
Ooh, Frostbolt.
Frostbolt works really well here.
Yeah.
Another option is to hold on to Combustion and then play other spells, but Frostbolt looks very clean. Frostbolt plus Ray of Frost destroys the Cobalt Spellkin, summons a 5/5. Chinvala gets a trade on the Cobalt Lackeys. And Rami's back in the same situation he was before, but slightly worse. Well, a lot worse now.
If he can make it till next turn without the board getting too out of control, he can get rid of that with Cabal Shadow Priest, but that just seems a little bit too slow. Zoda's just playing another Cobalt Spellkin here, honestly. Might have to dig for Shadow Word Pain, Forbidden Words. I mean, Lazul's scheme just seems like the best one. In a nutshell.
Yeah, I'm thinking about combo opportunities with Wild Pyromancer, but I think... Because if you play Power Word Feast onto Wild Pyromancer, then it becomes a 5/4, but damages itself, and then it heals back to a 5/4. It's not. It's pretty messy. I think you might do that just to simply get tempo onto the board, and then use a Cabal Shadow Priest or Evasive Ward in the following turn. He passes, which means that he feels like he's gonna have to look for a different swing turn, but it's starting to really get away from him, the board state here.
Yeah, it really is. Empanizado is just continuing to put minions on board and continue the pressure. I mean, Jandis does play into this hold on the Wild Pyromancer for Rami. It's just, that's a pretty expensive hold because he takes the damage, guaranteed, doesn't present something and that Empanizado wants to deal with. But does find an potentially even better target with the convincing infiltrator. But the problem remains is that Empanizado can keep gaining value from this Shinvala.
Right, so it's all about like how much he wants to press in here. Is Rami baiting him? Is he getting baited by the prospect of Soul Mirror and crushing Empanizado's hopes and dreams? Start things off by drawing. Empanizado doesn't have to extend to the board with like Wrath and whatnot. Can simply play 3 spells, 2 Ray of Frosts, or just a Cram Session.
Must be the Mirage.
Like it. Gets that armor, gets the trade, gets the damage. And Rami does have ways to deal with this now. The Wild Pyromancer could offer some good ways to clear off all these little low health minions. I think that's the best clean way. There's another opportunity for him to just maybe like something else and then Wave of Apathy, but I think I like that a lot less.
Yeah. I mean, he obviously picked this Powered Beast to synergize with the Wild Pyromancer, so this feels a little bit wasteful if you were to go for something different in this situation.
Yeah, he even gets to heal himself at the end of it. It looks very nice. Okay, so we have the Ras, which is nice for the clear. We want to stop this Pyromancer because it can threaten everything you play, especially when it already has a buff on it. So I guess that's it then. Just the Wand Thief. Ooh, Potion of Illusion. What can we do with that?
Well,
get more
Potion of Illusion got a lot worse in a deck like this. With the change to the... Like, you normally use Potion of Illusion on like Mana Giants to be able to get back Conjurer's Calling targets in your hand. I guess it would still work with Sorcerer's Apprentice, Mana Cyclone.
Yeah, I was thinking that, you know, you can use this since you don't have many spells for Mana Cyclone. You can just grab it. Counter spell seems okay. Ooh. The Astromancer. That plus the Arcane Missiles.
Is it enough? Needs to freeze the Murzond in this case.
Right.
Now he has to freeze the Murzond and ping the Raz to keep everything alive.
Yeah, I like that. And I think I like the Mana Cyclone here.
Okay. Yeah, he doesn't have to ping. He could just trade in the Wand Thief, and that works fine as well. Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Time runs out on me.
That is so much big stuff for Empanizado. Like, just the pressure, it's a lot. You can protect the Mana Giant with Counterspell, protect it from Soul Mirror, force him to have another cheap spell alongside with it, which he does have Arcane Missiles, but I feel like as this game progresses, this is going to get increasingly awkward for Rami to be able to deal with everything that's going to be happening.
Yeah, I mean, Empanizado has mana to spend on stuff. Like, even if the Mana Giants don't work out, he's got a lot of options. And don't forget that Rami is just also at 16 HP.
Yeah.
So, yes. Empanizado could also... yeah, just deep freeze his turn. I was thinking about having a Mana Giant, but seems like instead he can go for it the following turn. Galakrond comes to the hand here for Rami. As not every priest plays Galakrond, but still can be a really valuable tool. Finds Radiance off of the Cobalt spell kit.
I mean, that could be good to help him stabilize, but he needs to take control of the board first, which he's attempting to do here with the Wave of Apathy, and Raz still alive. All right, so now is the time. How much can he fit in here?
So the Sorcerer's Apprentice costs 2, and then all the spells cost 1 less. He should be able to play the Mana Giant for free this turn as well. If he plays Sorcerer's Apprentice, Conjurer's Calling, Mana Giants become 0. Oh, sorry, with the Arcane Missiles. Then he can play Conjurer's Calling twice.
I'm wondering if it's even worth using the Sorcerer's Apprentice in this case.
Can't Conjurer's Calling twice then, if that's the case. But maybe you don't want to.
Yeah, maybe you don't want to. Maybe you just want to set up Counterspell, Mana Giant, Conjurer's Calling.
Time runs out on me.
Or just deep freeze again and wait another turn to do all this stuff. Hey, that works.
Wow, double giant. Oh, jeez. Well, he's go lethal. Oh, and Rami picks up the Cobalt Acolyte here. Okay.
So if I don't know about
Galakrond
this
double
one.
clear.
Because if Soul Mirror comes out, you don't have lethal.
Right.
Anyway, you're not setting up lethal through Soul Mirror, and if Soul Mirror does come out, you've used all of your threats.
Yeah, I'm not really sure if Empanizado is banking on Rami's removal tools, but even just having like Shadow or Death, or rather, what you could do is double trade into a Water Elemental, play Galakrond, and then increase the chances of hitting the Mana Giant to 50-50, then Shadow or Death the other one. If he does hit it, that's a huge deal. Oh, he misses though.
All right, well, he doesn't hit it. How much damage is this? 11 plus 8? It was close, but with the Radiance, it's going to be a bit off still. But I'm guessing that did give Empanizado a good amount of information, because Soul Bear would have 100% come out here, so I think he could feel free to kind of maybe not go all in here, but make a very aggressive push to win this game.
Yeah, very much so. And you can even set up Counterspell to stop anything from potentially disrupting you if your opponent finds, like another Renew, and then Renew generates Plague of Death or some kind of like AoE spell. Also
Yeah, I
possible
wanna do
lethal
all of
if
it.
he just Conjurer's Calling here.
Counterspell and Conjurer's Calling.
Yeah, I like both. You also just find lethal here. Just get the Grump.
Yeah. Hmm. Woo!
No counter spell.
Well,
Leaving
he did.
Oh, jeez. Oh my gosh.
Leg of Death?
Oh. Oh.
Nope.
Wow.
Wait, can he Psyche split the Coolfang Warlord and still... No, that wouldn't work.
All I'm saying is that there was a chance Empanizado gave Rami an out to win the game, really, I think it feels like. Because if Rami plagued on this turn, Empanizado would just be out. And then, let's say he whiffs the next draw, Rami plays a threat, and he doesn't really relinquish the lead from there.
Yeah, it looks like he's still going to get there, but I really just don't agree with how Empanizado played these last few turns of the game. I mean, if there's something that I miss, I'm willing to be persuaded otherwise, but it just seemed like so many unnecessary risks, so many resources just left on the table that didn't need to be. Like, you're making a lethal push there. What are you holding counterspell for, you know?
Yeah, exactly. You know, what are you trying to time it for? Is there some kind of really important moment in the game, like protecting a big board that you want to see a counterspell for? It's definitely a lot of questions, but at the end of it, Empanizado does take that win in game number 2. And, you know, in the end, like, I understand exactly what he's trying to do, which is present threat, but he opens himself up to risk, right? That's kind of what we're talking about, where Rami could get lucky. And so, you know, take a situation where you're 95% chance to win, try to turn it to, like, you know, 100% as close as you can. Leaving those small little openings are always ways for you to get punished in a very unceremonious fashion where you're like, oh, I can't believe I was robbed. It's like, well, you don't give them the opening to potentially do that.
Yeah, exactly. But with that win, Empanizado ties up the series, which means there's Temple Mage Priest on Rami's side and the Seeker Rogue and Demon Hunter on Empanizado's side. So the Demon Hunter, I feel like, is okay positioned. I like it a lot against Temple Mage. I feel like it's one of the best decks against Temple Mage. And I do think it's decent against Priest, especially a Priest that doesn't have any, like, natural weapon tech in the deck. Rami also is playing, like, Galakron, which is not always, but oftentimes a dead card against Demon Hunter because you often can't afford to spend 7 mana to kill off the very limited amount of minions that they play, because they'll deal that 5 damage to you and then some on the following turn. You also give up your ability to heal. So he also doesn't have Cobalt Sticky Finger or Ooze or any way to stop some of that pressure. So if it comes down to that, I'd like Empanizado's Demon Hunter more against the version of Priest that Rami brought than normal. But we're not going to do that matchup just yet. We're going to do Rogue versus Priest, which honestly we've seen go both ways, quite like back and forth throughout the last couple of weeks since we've seen this matchup most. But, you know, one thing does remain is that I believe Secret Rogue still, by a full percentage point or two, holds the highest win rate deck in Grandmasters, with a very significant sample size. So it just goes to show you how consistent the deck's been, and maybe even, but don't tell Sottle I said this, underplayed. Completely my idea and not Sottle's at all. I actually came to that conclusion myself, and it was after much consideration. Actually, no. I came up with that before Sottle. I just wanted to troll him. Whatever. He admitted I was the best analyst. I don't care anymore. No more mental gymnastics. I'm just going to come out and say it.
If only it was that simple, TJ. Imagine saying exactly what you think. But yeah, you know, I think that we've talked about it in previous weeks where we felt like Rogue was a little underrepresented relative to how its power level is. Another archetype that I think that might still be a little bit underexplored is like some kind of aggressive rogue, like stealth variations that I also appreciate. They seem to be doing all right in Grandmasters, and I know that the stats don't necessarily back it up all the time, but there's instances where it just feels like Rogue is really hard to account for. And we also added another thing too, and we talked about this actually in week 6 a lot, which is that Rogue adds a X factor to tournament lineups that you can't really prepare for, similar to what Mage does with Puzzle Box and Solarian Prime, or Priest does with Priest cards. There's just, this element that Rogue can potentially generate random conditions to win the game, and it's very difficult to respond to that. And I feel like that makes Rogue a much bigger tournament threat than you might consider it on ladder.
Yeah. Also, for some reason, people tend to, in competitive play, shy away from aggressive decks.
I wonder.
I feel like there's a lot of reasons
is?
why. One, it's aggressive decks have almost zero margin for error against in competitive play.
It's too hard.
They're not necessarily too hard. It's just that like the mistakes that you would make, you get punished for super hard. Also, aggressive decks tend to be very one-dimensional, which you mentioned one of the strengths of Rogue is that it's not one-dimensional. There's a bunch of different ways that it can win. That's why it's always a threat, and that's why it's one of the better decks against better players, because they're trying to account for things that just don't exist, or trying to account for things that it's just too impossible to account for, randomly generated nonsense. So I do feel
people
like
are not they lack courage, TJ. They lack the guts.
I honestly feel that way. I used to think it was for reasons deeper than that. Like reasons like, they're just making the right reads, the aggressive decks just aren't good at competitive play. But the more I've watched Grandmasters and watched Master Tours and high level play, it's just that players are afraid. They're afraid to bring aggressive decks and just get completely obliterated by random anti-weapon tech or something like that. And they lack the courage to just go for it. So
I like it, TJ. I like it. Let them fly. Give me these hot takes. Hot takes episode 7 right here.
People are too scared to bring aggressive decs. All the Grandmasters.
Cowards.
Every last
All
one
of
of them.
them.
How many face hunters this week? Not enough.
0?
Couple in APAC, I think.
Oh, sorry. You said Americas, right?
Yeah, but I'm specifically calling out every region.
Oh, wow.
All 3 of them. No face hunters in Europe either. All right, there's the game going on. First questing adventure dealt with. Cold Neophyte played. One of the toughest parts about this Rogue deck is actually pacing out resources, because against a deck like Priest, if you're just playing one thing at a time and just like, deal with this, now deal with this. Hey, here's another thing. You want to deal with this? If you keep doing that, they are going to deal with everything. They love that. They love when you play one thing at a time. So you have to like piece together these awkward scenarios, or if you are going to be playing one thing at a time, be playing one thing that also generates value when you play with it, when you play it. So you're not falling into the trap of I played a thing, he dealt with it. I played the thing, he dealt with it. I played the thing, he dealt with it. Okay, now I'm out of things. You need to kind of be hedging your bets against what happens if he deals with these things that you have. You generate more things. So.
That's right. I think I followed you, but yes. Essentially, Rogue needs to keep up in the resource battle and ensure that they are pacing themselves. It's definitely a marathon. It's not a sprint. Don't go all out too fast.
Yeah.
But Empanizado might not have a choice here. He just kind of has cards that are more resource intensive, right? Like, the idea is that the questing adventure consumes resources, doesn't really generate anything. And Empanizado was really hoping that the Plagiarize would be able to do much, and Rami very astutely just plays the Wave of Apathy and passes, not giving any additional cards to Empanizado.
Mm-hmm.
And there, in life, TJ, and in Hearthstone, there's some givers and takers. I mean, Empanizado's got a lot of takers, not a lot of givers, and that's not a really well-balanced hand right now. Okay.
The Brotherhood shall prevail.
Solid board.
Yep. not really a turn before Solmir because it could be coin, but at the very least, you know, would force him to coin, presents 2 threats. So if Shadow or Death were to come out, it wouldn't be super devastating. Because he'd still have another minion to back it up.
Right.
I wonder.
So we definitely want to Shadow Word Death. The question is, what does Rami want to do with his other 4 mana crystals this turn? Could play...
He was hoping to be able to Shadow or Death again.
True. I was thinking about the Apotheosis to use with the Wild Pyromancer later on, because the one thing it does seem like he would be doing is taking some damage, and I feel like he's so ahead on the resource battle. The one thing he wants to ensure is that Rogue doesn't just find a way to pressure him.
Quickly.
Cheese a win, if you will.
Look at the difference in value between both these players' hands. Kind of insane. Empanizado needs something big here. I don't think he's going to win to get an aggressive game plan. Rami can dump a bunch of cards each turn.
Right.
And still be
Rami
ahead.
played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards that turn. Empanizado might be able to do that if he uses everything, and it's going to be for like lower value than he intends it to be. Okay, faces Lackey and Goblin Lackey. Reasonable stuff to fight onto the board.
Play it all again. Okay, so we've seen a Wild Pyromancer. He's okay with his board being damaged because he just wants as much stuff on board as he can get. That makes sense. There is 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 damage being represented on board. This could be an opportunity for Rami to Murzond and then stabilize after. But,
oh, interesting.
he wouldn't actually get
I was
that
agreeing
much
with
from
that.
it.
What?
Well, because he wouldn't get the battle cries, so he'd get a couple of 1/1s.
You have a 1/2, a 1/4, a 1/1, and a 1/1, and an 8/8. And his opponent has 1 card in hand. I think that it was totally justified to play a Murzon in that spot. But I get it. And also, when you're God gaming like this, just rip that Holy Nova and crush your opponent's dreams.
When you're feeling it, when you're really feeling it.
Yes.
But the problem is, like, if you're just gonna consistently be worried about worst case scenario and try and dig for an out like that, then when do you play Murzon? Is it gonna get much better than that if your opponent only has 1 card in hand? Like, that's just he's got 2 Murzons.
Yeah,
That's
and like
double
Murzon's
what
not
you
going
can
to get
legally
better.
place into a deck.
Murzon's not going to get better. It doesn't really matter. He just has tempo.
What's funny is
Empanizado
that
has to trade.
you're playing Dirty Tricks with an empty hand, your opponent just doesn't have to do anything but play minion.
Right. Mom doesn't necessarily have to do anything, like you said. Also, Empanizado does have another plagiarize, so that could be a possibility for him to just take it very slow.
Yeah.
Embalming Ritual is particularly interesting to me. I kind of like the Murzond. Okay. I guess what he wanted to do is he wanted the spell to give him clearance to play as many cards as possible, which is fine. Whoa, Grave Rune. Interesting. Right.
Mass Resurrection. That would ruin. Alright, so Empanizado just, you gotta go. Start discovering as many secrets as you can. Try and gain value out of this. At this point, though, it's looking pretty unlikely that he's able to find a win in this game, just because it feels like Rami has answers to just about everything. But if you could provide enough disruption and get, maybe a big legendary from this Dragon's Horde, hit a huge secret passage, there's possibilities here.
Yeah, well, Freezing Trap makes sense given the current board state. The only 1 mana secret is Noble Sacrifice. Finally.
Choose soon.
I guess Mirrority makes sense. It's all really like a situation that Empanizado is just kind of unhappy with, to say the least. But first, Rami does the exact same thing right back. Finds out what secrets it is.
Such a funny interaction, honestly.
Right. And now can attack and kill off that Hanar. Knows what it is.
Yeah.
He loses the value on things like the Grave Rune, but it's not a big deal. He's still in such a dominant spot.
Yep. I'm pretty sure he could literally test all of these secrets in the absolute worst way you could even think up, and he would still be in a commanding position. Does give him a Murzon though, so now has to think about that, but honestly, it's not that big of a deal. All right, I can think of a win condition off the top of my head. Dan, can you?
Puzzle box of Yaxaron?
I'm glad we're on the same page today.
Yes, our synergy is off the charts. Keladon helps actually answer this Murzon right here and allows him to potentially prepare the way. Puzzle box. Nope. Finds a cram session. I guess he figures he needs to have more resources in the hand. This defender will be bounced back. I would love it to activate Freezing Trap.
Choose soon.
In fact, I think the correct order would be to attack with your weapon to activate the to activate the sacrificial pact. Oh no, the noble sacrifice. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Then you can attack and have the defender return in. I guess it doesn't really truly matter, like in the big picture of things, but like I don't know why we wouldn't want to diffuse those secrets though.
Yeah.
I wonder.
I'm kind of curious myself. Maybe he feels like there's potential for him to use the secrets against Rami?
Yeah, I
That seems
can't really figure it out
far-fetched,
myself. But I don't think it's like super important right now because Empanizado is so far behind still that, we could talk about how Empanizado can give himself a 1% chance to win to 2% chance because things look so dominant for Rami that he's kind of drowning in resources at this point. Absolutely crushing the face of Empanizado. Kind of surprised Rami just didn't take the Pyroblast. He's so close to
come
finishing.
on, what? You're putting him to 13. How does he deal with this whole board and worry about 10 damage from hand?
Yeah. All right. Well, that ends the game. Empanizado concedes. Rami climbs up into this series and gets the win with his priest. And that's what priest does. It whittles you down. It steals your resources. It gives you a wedgie. Dunks you in the bathroom and gives you and flushes the toilet with your hair in it. It does all kinds of really mean and bully things to you. But what it won't do is kill you. It just waits for you to leave the game. Very thematic and on point from Rami94. So he's up 2-1, goes to Mage. Mage is, I mean, it's still being on the table. Empanizado might be able to corner it with his Demon Hunter, which is why he's probably queuing it up here. Demon Hunter tends to have a pretty good matchup against the Mage. As you can see with the new tech, the Penflinger coming in.
Yep, I love the Penflinger. I talked about it at length last week, but I feel like the Penflinger just has so much flexibility. It helps you pick apart boards against aggro. It helps you find like a little bit of additional efficient burst damage later on in the game. A lot of times against control decks, you don't want to go all in with like twin slices and all in on your damage too early. What Penflinger does is allow you to kind of weave the Penflinger in, and that can allow you to squeeze in damage while not giving up too many resources in case your opponent has like this. So I've loved the Penflinger tech. The more I've played, the more I just am fine with settling with one, unless you're playing the Altruist list, then I like the two. Because Penflinger always bounces back to the far right, so Altruist, Twin Slice, and Penflinger have some insane synergy together. But I do like the list. And against Tempo Mage, I feel like this is one of Soul Demon Hunter's best matchups. It's just the Tempo Mage does not defend itself very well. They take a long time to get ramped up. But, you know, the one thing about Mage is that they do have access to a lot of freezes. A timely Frostbolt or a timely Deep Freeze can just completely change like the outcome of a game against Soul Demon Hunter. So be on the lookout for those types of things.
It says explode.
And underway with match 4, or game 4. Game 4 of match 4. Boom.
Yeah, that's right. And Empanizado is going to hope that he has a way to pressure the Mage. Does have that Marrow Slicer, but Rami's ready. He's got that early curve. He's got the Wand Thief.
Oh, yeah.
Another Arcane Missile.
This is the juice right here.
Yes.
This is the juice, Dan. This is what you want to see if you're playing Tempo Mage against Demon Hunter. A very early Sorcerer Apprentice Mana Cyclone,
TJ.
raw damage to really put them on the back foot. Honestly, I wouldn't even mind seeing a Consume Magic here on this Violet Spellwing.
I grow impatient.
You could even take off the spell damage off the board, Penflinger. Then you Consume Magic. You get the Penflinger back. Then you can trade off the Lab Partner with your Wand Maker and Hero Power down the 1/1 now silenced Violet Spellwing.
Hey, loser.
Oh, love it when a plan comes together.
Yeah. I mean, it looks pretty nice, and Empanizado is just going to take it very slow and kill things off the board very systematically. And there's not really too much that Rami can do right now outside that Sorcerer's Apprentice. Picks up the Wand Maker, so we can power up even further, TJ.
You don't pick the one, see?
And actually sticking
Ripping
to the
the
deck's
Arcane
namesake and playing for tempo.
Yeah.
Wow.
Interesting. I kind of thought about saving it for the Sorcerer's Apprentice because I want to get even greedier with the Mana Cyclone.
Yeah. Well,
I want this Mana Cyclone to turn to a Mana Hurricane, TJ.
yeah.
I want it to be a force to be reckoned with. Maximum spells, maximum overdrive.
I mentioned how powerful freeze effects are. And you can only get freeze effects to the face if you're getting your Mana Cyclones really
Yeah.
nice and juiced.
I don't want a Mana Cyclone 1X. I want a Mana Cyclone Series X 1X.
Whoa! Now we're talking.
Yeah. If you know what I mean. An X Mana X Cyclone X Series 1X X.
Version 2.
Yes. Press X to confirm. I mean, what does Empanizado do here in this position? These are so annoying. Do you want to blade dance all these little small minions?
Probably in this instance. Usually no, but honestly, I don't feel like Empanizado has the ability to keep taking this chip damage over and over again. I guess not. It's just like the Shard Shatter like not having Shard Shatter missing in this instance is so brutal, because if you do play Blade Dance here, you're incredibly worried about the possibility of Mana Giants coming down and you not having an answer for it. But honestly, I feel like you can't afford to take this chip damage because you may not have the time to rebound with Eldrazi Warblades. That's just he didn't even swing with Marrow Slicer.
Right. Holding off on the possibility he might have to swing and Blade Dance and still hold on to this weapon charge. I do find that pretty interesting. I guess because he also has such a Lapidary, so he needs to be mindful of whether or not he needs to hold for like a big Mana Giant opportunity. Rami not even using the coin. Really wants to hold on to that coin for a special occasion here.
I'm not sure about that one. It would give him the mana to play a 2-mana spell that he would get from the Mana Cyclone. But trading a coin for a random mage spell
seems great.
Seems like a nice trade-off. Yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely not the best case scenario here for Rami, but still has some pretty nice tools.
Yep. Next turn, he also has double jump plus skull as a way to guarantee you get the outcast on the skull. He hasn't drawn one yet, so he still has both dual up in his deck. So even if he draws one off the top, he can still do that. But if he draws one off the top, he's playing that one, because then he just gets to play an outcasted skull with 1 mana left.
Yeah. Empanizado probably trying really hard not to justify playing the Blade Dance, but I think you gotta go for it. Too much pressure through the form of a lot of these small minions. Canter Flow really coming up here. Ooh. Evocation.
That's a big one.
Yes, it is. Card draw is a lot less important now because you have Evocation. Tends to be at odds with each other. I think I like the... Okay, well, Arcane Intellect can also be playable this turn. Then you can try to look for Sorcerer's Apprentice number 2. That's entirely a reasonable line of thinking as well. Oh my gosh. See, this is the hand that I imagine every one of my mage opponents having whenever I get generous. I'm just like, you know what? No. Not today. I'm not feeling that generous.
This is an absurd amount of value, but it's also very expensive. Though Empanizado is playing this quite slow. He's taking a lot of damage in order to not part ways with... well, he took a lot of damage to not part ways with the Blade Dance to ultimately just use it. Right, he took a 5 extra, but I guess it did allow him to weave in like pen flingers and make, the ultimate use out of it. But the turn before that, not swing with the Marrow Slicer also, I think, could have an effect here, because he still needs another turn to get these Eldrazi Warblades online. If his plan was to go into turn 7 and double jump into a skull, he's likely to pick up another weapon, which means he's going to have even more weapon swings in his hand.
All right.
Warlock.
Ooh, the Star Shatter Mystic picked up. That is nice. See, there's all Jockey Warblades. Now he's got even more charges to shoot through, but that swing looks like it's going to be pretty tough for Rami to deal with unless he picks up like Freeze right now.
Taunt helps. So the Violet Warden here. Wow, it'd be so sad if Rami ends up playing this Violet Warden and Empanizado just like finds a way to kill him and Rami's holding like 8 cards plus evocation.
We shall end this disturbance.
Zoo Magic's been used.
Are you asking or saying? I didn't catch that.
No, I'm saying Consume Magic has been used. It was used on the Violet spell.
Consume
like,
Magic.
turn
Yeah.
3.
So I thought you were asking if it had been. I was like, yeah. I was like turn 2.
Yeah, no. So I'm saying like he doesn't have a chance to, like he'd be pretty close to lethal otherwise. Have 7, 8, 9, 10. But just have to deal with this first.
I think Chaos Strike here makes sense for start things off because you can use anything to buff your hero. I guess maybe Empanizado thinks about if he wants to Penflinger first, but I think that's a little bit fancy. I guess he could save himself a hero power. You can Penflinger then Chaos Strike. But you hero power anyways, right? So you Penflinger the face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is where I like the Penflinger because these turns where you're kind of like front loading a lot of damage with your weapon, you get to weave in Penflingers, which is just kind of more efficient damage.
Right. And you get to call your opponent a loser as well. Foreshadowing.
I'm always afraid in these types of situations when I'm playing Demon Hunter to not get some of the healing out of the way when it's good, because if Rami developed a board here and froze face, Empanizado would be like dead.
We are friends now.
Gets vaporized when he already had vaporize. Wow. Well, that wasn't very good.
No. That was
Is
not meaningful
dead.
development.
4 plus 2 on the second slice plus another 4 is 10. Plus hero power is 11. Plus Chaos Strike is 13. Actually, just Lapidary instead. Yeah.
He's dead. Lapidary, twin slice, second slice, hero power.
That is
Exactly
correct.
14.
No, wait, you can Penflinger. Fling him, TJ.
Such a beautiful.
I know, is it? Yeah, it is exactly.
Yes, it is. Fling him, TJ.
Fling him! No! Missed opportunity.
Yeah. It's the psychological damage that was missed, TJ. He got the exact lethal in game, but he missed the one to Rami's mental state.
Which is the real victory that we're looking for
It's
here.
the real
in
victory.
Grandmasters. We don't want to just beat our opponents. We want to demoralize them,
That's right,
mentally
crush them.
torture them. That's right. And
It
now it comes down to.
I was just gonna say that it's like it comes down to the wire, right? This is week 7. Like a person's loss is your gain. Two people are gonna get automatically relegated. Being able to deliver a blow here is devastating for either player. They're both 2 and 3. A loss here puts playoffs out of reach for a good portion of the outcomes, and might even put them in the relegation zone to get automatically kicked out of GM.
Watch your back. You asked
What's
for
scary?
it.
Serious business.
Yeah. But now we're going into Rogue versus Mage. And I always thought this matchup was relatively close, but the stats, at least in Grandmasters specifically, has this matchup being incredibly rogue favored. This matchup has been played a little under 50 times in Grandmasters across the 3 regions, and it's almost at a 70% win rate in favor of the rogue. So that's quite a large win rate, I would say. Decks have changed over time,
yes.
but overall, like, the strategy remains the same. I even think that maybe even the current rogues are better than they were when they were more unrefined at the beginning. But we'll see. Rami's got a nice little curve, but so does Empanizado. Value heavy for both players. Oh, and a questing adventurer to round it all together.
All right, well, here we go. The Battle of One Drops to start things off here, and we have the Astromancer Solarian and the Wand Maker available on turn 2. Chooses to go for the Wand Maker, I guess, because he could capitalize off the Astromancer Solarian, but he kind of wants to have that one-mana spell ahead of time. And Empanizado finds Plagiarize for 2. I think he was thinking about the Wand Thief first. Does that Plagiarize change anything? I don't think so. I think we're still going Dragon Sword into the Wand Thief and try to prep for the Questing Adventurer grand entrance.
Yeah. There's in this matchup, you can kind of time your Plagiarize to a turn where you think your opponent has to pop off, or where you know your opponent needs to pop off. So I feel like that the timing of that card can be quite important. This is one that I did not expect at all.
Yeah,
Just a dagger up.
Dagger pass. Okay. I mean, it's the highest value play because you don't have to play a card and you use your mana. I'm
not sure about this one.
TJ. So he wants to, like, super greed the Questing Adventure, right? That's like the logic.
Yeah, so like right now, he could go Questing Adventure, coin Wand Thief, Shadow Step the Wand Thief, and play the Wand Thief again.
Right.
That's the play that would be full
Give me a quest.
tempo right
Yes.
now, and I
Yes.
think you just go for it. So that was his plan last turn.
Okay.
From last turn. So it makes sense now. Because he didn't want to play the Plagiarize because it'd be super low value. Wow.
Wow. Wow.
No.
I mean, he's just getting another one.
Close box? Oh, these are much worse.
Magic Check's actually pretty good with Questing Adventure. But compared to the unstoppable puzzle box of Yogsrod, I inclined to agree. And also, his Questing Adventure is about to get dunked. So, cool play from Empanizado, but gets immediately shut down. And Rami gets to draw cards this turn, too, if he wants to with the Arcane Intellect. I like that. I don't think Rolling Fireball is particularly needed since he has a proactive turn 5 play, and he can keep up in resources, right? So, like, the whole point of what Empanizado's play represents is he is able to generate resources while developing. And if you end up just picking cards that aren't able to keep up in that resource count, Rogue might just be able to drain you of resources. I like it. Gotta keep up.
Yeah, I suppose. All right. Not much to do here except to go for this Evil Miscreant. Plagiarize and Cold Neophyte have anti-synergy, especially against small spell mage. There's not... I mean, he could go for, like, Plagiarize, Re-Dagger, if you think that there's going to be a bigger turn from your opponent next turn, but feels a little bit too slow. But Empanizado has shown that he's willing to make those types of plays. But just can't help but feel like this one's a little bit better here with the Dragon Sword plus Evil Miscreant. Wow, okay. Reno won't be active for a while. Our Megadillo,
I mean,
for its stats, if you don't have any top minions, is pretty low value.
the Altruist with the Colossus of the Moon. That's just not it. It's just like, it's just funny to me because that's just not going to be an outcast position for a long time.
No.
I mean, realistically, Altruist is just because the other cards aren't super good. He can maybe get 1 or 2 activations off of it. But wow, is that thoroughly underwhelming?
Play it now to get the one outcast? If he keeps hoarding 1 mana things on the right side of his hand, you know, maybe he can get the juiciest Altruist in like 5 turns.
From nothing, power.
Okay.
He's playing this so slow, and I feel
Yeah,
like
he's
that's
like,
just,
how many resources can I amass in this game?
I feel like that's just not how you win this matchup.
I fully agree. I think Rogue tends to be very tempo oriented and then generate resources to cement their lead. Right now, Empanizado's playing as if he's
Choose soon.
as if he has like burst tempo turns, but he really doesn't, right? Like he's basically just getting cards that fill up his mana, right? Like other cards that generate cards that puts like 3/2s and 1/1s and 1/2s on the board.
You don't pick
And eventually
the
Rom's gonna be like,
ones.
well, I'm just gonna play like an 8/8. And I was like, well, you got me.
Yeah. Wow. Well played, sir. I did not expect that 8/8.
Well, that's where it feels like it's leading to. Like Mage is charging up for a meaningful amount of tempo here. Empanizado feels like he just has reactive cards. And you know, kind of to your point, it doesn't seem like it contributes to him winning the game. It does contribute to him stalling out to find a win condition, which is totally plausible. If he has the Edwin Van Cleave, his hand is sick.
Time runs out on me.
Evocation looks really tempting. Sometimes I feel like you don't necessarily want. Sometimes I feel like you don't necessarily want cards like Evocation, but with so many mana that Mana Giant still costs here, I think you got to take that and trying to find discounts. And Rami is playing around the secrets now for Empanizado, like played just a little bit onto the board, sees no
So
plagiarize,
many
now knows
options.
it is Dirty Tricks.
Also, I mean, Rami's more incentivized to take things slowly because he does have those burst tempo turns. So if Empanizado's not really going to do anything, why should Rami do anything?
Wonder.
Right? He's the one that usually is like, oh man, that's a big questing adventure. I need to respond to that. Oh wow, that's a big threat. I need to respond to that. But just no reason to. And I do like this plagiarize timing. Problem is, he has plagiarize and dirty tricks up. So it's like, I would like this timing if this was just a plagiarize and dirty tricks had been active already. Because it seems like Rami's been hoarding resources and you're going to get a lot of stuff. But he doesn't have any room for all this stuff, which is the big problem. And Rami should be able to recognize this and just say, well, you're going to waste a lot of value, you're going to overdraw a card in your deck. I can still go for my tempo turn and not be punished for it too heavily by playing into your secrets. The thing that this does do is the cards that Empanizado's like to get back from plagiarize are cheap.
I wonder.
See where I'm going, Dan?
Yes.
He's making this play deliberately to get fodder for this Altruist.
Just have to wait till turn 10 to play this Colossus of the Moon and get it out. Or if he sticks Altruist, he's got a turn 10 Colossus of the Moon that deals 1 damage AoE. The world's most disappointing Frost Whisper. Okay, goes with the Cobalt spell, Ken. Would love for him to play some of these spells and start discounting the Mana Giant. I'm actually really surprised at the lack of charging up on the Mana Giant here. I think Rami is like really trying super hard to avoid activating the dirty tricks, but you can't, right? Like,
yeah, and he's like giving him the perfect amount of cards for play drives.
Yeah.
Like, he knew exactly what the cards were there.
My
He gets
hand is
maximum
full.
3 cards. Rami played exactly 3 cards. Like, he could have played so many more and not been punished whatsoever and try and get these
Right.
Mana Giants super cheap. He did play enough, however, to force Empanizado to discard. And Blackjack Center is a big discard, honestly, for Empanizado, because
So
now these
many
Mana Giants that Rami has won't be as challenged. So again, it goes back to Rami can play slow because he has these Mana Giants. If Empanizado is playing slow, he can just match it, and eventually, like, these things will stick.
Do you
He'll be
see
fine.
what must be done?
Oh, he's doing it.
Here we go, Dan.
Altruist,
Boom.
but the Tome of Intellect might block it.
No, it
Oh,
didn't.
he gets Ray of Frost.
The literal perfect outcome.
God gamers.
That's the
How
best
does he
card
do
he could
it?
have possibly gotten, because now it
How
kills the
does he
Global Spellkin.
do it, TJ?
Beautiful. I wish Language Clapper was here.
Well, thanks to the power of my 2 hands, it could be like he was.
We can build our own Language Clapper.
Is it cold in here?
Actually,
Oh, here we go.
if we were to look at Rami's hand, he doesn't have a way to actually kill the Altruist. He finds it through the Ray of Frost here.
Yeah. So
Wow.
this is
This
probably
has been
going to be
quite
game
a,
over.
Quite a game.
Because
has
Rami will
escalated
develop
so
a 6/6, a 5/5, and 2 8/8s this turn.
Yes.
And Empanizado will have no way to deal with more than one.
See, Rami shaking the head, recognizing he didn't play the Learn Draconic a lot earlier, but you don't admit your mistake to your opponent. He also, I think, wanted to get this 3rd activation on Shambhala, but I don't think he could have.
Oh, it says it's
Woo.
cold.
The important part here, though, is that he played all of these stats, because Empanizado doesn't have great ways to deal with all of these stats. Statistics.
Statistics.
Game comes down to statistics, and Rami has way more statistics than Empanizado does.
I wonder.
Stat tactics. I mean, Empanizado has Vendetta to clear off one of these minions, Fireball to clear off another, but doesn't address the big issue here of the fact that one minion will stick for Conjurer's Calling. We know that's not in the hand, but Empanizado's he's sweating. Fully clenched right now. This is tough.
Yeah.
Choose soon.
Was maybe hoping for a reasonable minion to use Goblin Lackey on, but doesn't seem like he's going to get it. Wow. This is just lethal on board if he doesn't get the mirror image off. Just barely does. Rami has the ability to go for that lethal. Ooh.
This is lethal in like 15 different ways.
Yeah.
He's looking for
And
guaranteed, but
Empanizado
Empanizado's
gives
like,
up.
yeah.
Rami takes the win. Huge W for Rami94. Evens up his match score at 3 games apiece, and very likely has avoided auto relegation with that win. We'll have to at least make sure that we see the rest of the standings before we can write that off. But really important win for Rami. And, a couple of little missteps here and there, not a big deal. But overall, I would say that he definitely kind of knew what he was doing there. And we started off with that druid win, which was really nice because druid got that nerf and shows you that Rami's still very much on top of his game at the moment.
Yeah, he's not out of the woods yet. I will say that. His final match is against Nalgidon, and Empanizado's final match is against Zalay. And Firebat